So we're using the OWL. We've got new technology for us here today. We're trying to figure it out. So we have an OWL, which is video and also audio. And then we're on Teams for the people who are couldn't join us tonight. But I wanted to say we're really stressing for people to show up in this in person because we've had some problems with the internet before. I think we figured it out. I think it shuts down in a 2-hour time limit here. So I don't think we're going to go that long tonight, but if we do, we might take a break and reset everything. And then other than that, Peggy and Henry both asked, I think they have a couple of statements they want to make. They're concerned about time, but I think we've got a small enough group tonight that we'll be fine. I think what we're going to talk about is very definitive, and the number of people, I think, so we'll take comments in a little bit. But before I do that, I'll just go through the whole process, just so everybody knows what we're doing here tonight. I'm Jeff Bordeaux, and this is Steve Young, Dennis Becker. Dennis is going to run just the online stuff, but Steve and I primarily focus on the landfill. And we both work in the solid waste program, which is part of DEC, which is part of ANR. ANR has 3 different departments: Department of our Fish and Wildlife, Forest and Parks, and DEC. So we're within DEC and in the Waste Management Program. And our primarily focus at the landfill is construction, new construction, development, operations, day-to-day operations, and we monitor and regulate the waste coming into the facility. Solid waste program also, beyond us, the group back in Montpelier, do a lot with organics and recycling. So that's who we are. So we're here tonight just to focus on the landfill. But I want to just stress that there's other departments within there's other programs and divisions within our department that regulate other things such as air, stormwater, wastewater, and then there's Act 250 that also regulates the landfill. So what Steve and I are going to do tonight is a very specific thing we're talking about, which we'll get into in a minute. But there may be questions that might be outside of our scope that we won't be able to answer. Dennis, you gave me a look.
No, I was just...
I think most of you guys have been here. You know where we're at and what we do here. So tonight we're here. So let's back up a little bit. In 2018, we gave a permit. It's a 10-year permit. At that time, it was a snapshot of all the operations they wanted to do. And in 2023, a couple of things came up that they needed to do an amendment. So our permit is based on our rules, regulations, the application they submit to us, which is an FMP, a facility management plan, and then the certification itself. So they're operating under that system. In 2000, I think it probably came in 2002, there's a couple of things came up. They discovered that there was PFAS in the groundwater that was being discharged on phase 3. So they came to us, they said, we want to treat this. We came up with a definitive action plan, action on what they needed to do, so they applied for an amendment. That amendment was the first amendment, and that was to treat the underdrain treatment. And that's we call it the GAC system, which is granulated active carbon. The second amendment that they requested from us was the ability to build a couple things. The ability to build a building to bring in a treatment system for the leachate to treat PFAS. And also was, at the same time, they requested a temporary location to treat PFAS as a bridge to get into that main building. And that was also issued in 2003, I think February 2003.
2023.
Oh, what did I say?
2003.
Okay, been here a long time. Since then, when they applied for that, they anticipation of putting that treatment, what they call foam fractionation or surface area foam fractionation system, and they hired an independent consultant to help them with that. And the whole process with them, I think erred in how much storage of this foam fractionation concentrate after the system was 100 gallons. So we all went through the process and approved 100 gallons. And during that process, we approved the building and all the infrastructure inside, which is, I think there's 4 7,500 gallon tanks. Some's for washing, some's for, I'm not sure, the other, maybe staging to get the leachate into the building to go through the process. And then 1 7,500 gallon tank is for the concentrate. Well, they're only allowed to put 100 gallons in there. And so that's where we are today. They found out that through operating this system, the system's operating now. And what it does is it takes leachate out of the landfill. They put it in those big blue storage tank, 500,000 gallon tanks, untreated, and then they bring it in through the system. They treat for the PFAS, and then they pump the leachate back out into the second large tank, and then the concentrate stays in the building right now at 100 gallons. So as they're operating, they're realizing this is one of the limiting factors. They're running the system, they have a couple employees in there, and all of a sudden they're hitting 100 gallons now. They can either treat this stuff, they're treating it as it's going, but a couple times they've had to shut down. This causes a little bit of disruptions in their treatment system, because the system's like manufacturing. Once you get the assembly line going, it's very efficient to keep it going. If you shut it down, it takes a while to get it back up. So it's inefficient in that area. The other reason they're asking for the 7,500 gallons is that it gives them the ability, if they were, now I don't think right now, I haven't heard anything of it happening, but it will give them the ability, if they found off-site treatment or disposal options that were viable for them, they'd be able to transport it off-site. At 100 gallons right now, it just couldn't happen, because you're not going to bring a pickup truck, put 2 55-gallon drums in and bring it down to New Jersey or wherever in the country. But 7,500 gallon is a magic number that tractor-trailer trucks use to transport gasoline, liquids. So that's where the 7,500 gallons is. Before, I can go through the process of where we're at. Maybe I'll start where we're going. Now, actually, it might be a good time to, now let me do this. So this application came in last September. They submitted an application, and my job in the solid waste program is to evaluate what they're proposing. And we have to look at this against our rules and our regulations and make sure it meets our rules and regulations. When they first submitted, we thought, well, 100 gallons was kind of like a homeowner's size thing to deal with for cement and activities. So what we call a technically incomplete letter, we sent out a request for more information. And what we asked for at that time was, we asked for just a little bit more on how this is going to be transferred. How's it gonna, if it gets transferred, which means they bring a truck inside the building, nothing will be transferred outside. We also asked about how they're going to solidify this, which means mixing with concrete and in bigger batches. So they provided that information to us in what we would call a technical incomplete letter, or it could be technically complete if it met our satisfaction. But at the same time, maybe through our review and just technical review mostly, we thought, well, this is a concentrate and it's going in the landfill. And wouldn't it be prudent for us to find, if it's going to go in the landfill, maybe we need to know the location. This currently happens up the landfill with asbestos. When asbestos comes in, they geolocate it, which means they know the height of it, they know the X and Y coordinates, so they could go back in 2 years and say, they know right where this leachate or this asbestos is. Well, we thought that might be a good idea, or to do that with this concentrate. So we threw it back on them and said, hey, this is what we're thinking. You need to defend if this is a viable option for you. I mean, can you do this logistically with your employees, with the equipment we know, or technologies we have today? While doing that, we also asked, well, what is this concentrate really? I've heard words, heard comments, I think from Peggy. Good job, Peggy, asking, but I think there's a term, super concentrate or hyper concentrate. That sounds alarming to us. So I think I'm gonna just pass it on to Steve what this material is. And I will say that we were doing our own internal investigation and at the same time asked Casella Group, what is this stuff? Can you tell us how dangerous or what is this material? And so I'll just pass it on for Steve for a minute.
Yeah.
So let me just reintroduce. So Steve does a lot of our water quality and liquids management. Mostly I do the solid stuff going in that's solid, but he's our specialist and really looks at our water quality monitoring and evaluates that. So when it comes to leachate and this type of materials, Steve has a good grasp on it.
Yeah, so my name's Steve Young. I work in the permitting section with Jeff Burnell. As Jeff said, I primarily deal with the water quality, groundwater, surface water monitoring, as well as leachate monitoring and under drains for the landfill. And with the technically incomplete, when we were asking for more information, as Jeff said, with the geolocating, we asked one, like, how concentrated what is this PFAS? And then we would ask for just like kind of some data and just some explanation about how much. Also, before they got back to us, I was able to actually do the math out because you can calculate about how much PFAS there would be within the concentrate based off of how much leachate they're treating, how often they are mixing with concrete. And the math came out to be about 1.75 grams around, so it's like, it could be anywhere, depending on how concentrated the leachate that comes in is. It's about 1.75 grams per 100 gallons of concentrate fractionate that they have, which was kind of surprising. It was a lot less than I originally thought. I thought this 100 gallons was concentrated PFAS, but 1.75 grams, that is less than what a mattress that gets disposed of in the landfill is. A mattress could varies anywhere between like 2 and 15 grams of PFAS per mattress. And then carpet, about 2 grams in carpet would be about 7-8 pounds. So it was pretty surprising how less concentrated than we thought it was. So we decided that they would not have to, we didn't think that they would have to geolocate these cement blocks that they're disposing in the landfill. Do you want me to continue, Jeff, with?
No, I'll just say a little bit more. So when these numbers came back, the concern was, or actually the recognition is that this landfill is sequestering most of the PFAS. So what's going in the landfill is staying in the landfill. Losing my train of thought here a little bit, but so when they decided, or not they decided, but when we determined that that this material is a lot less than actually what we're living in our homes and what's being generated from all of us every day. I mean, the big things that actually, yes, Steve, why don't you bring up that chart?
You had a chart of what goes into the landfill about every day. So we have this chart that it's a study back in 2019.
Can you read this? These were.
It's a little blurry.
So this is slide. I'll go if you want to talk about each one. I'll point to it.
Okay, yeah, but I was just going to say, back in I think it was 2019, there was a study that was done that was just trying to measure about how much PFAS every day goes into the landfill. All the way on the left, between around 1.5 grams a day, that's how much sludge, how much PFAS in sludge that gets disposed of on a daily basis. This one over here is soil. These are bulky goods, so things such as your mattresses and other large items that would contain PFAS. Textiles, that's your everyday clothing that would end up getting disposed of. So that is,
Fast fashion.
yes. So that is the largest contributor of PFAS in the landfill. Right next to textiles, another large one is your carpet. So carpet overall has quite a lot of PFAS in it. I think it's about 0.5% by weight would be PFAS from what articles I've read. And then over here we have your C&D, construction and demolition. And then over all the way on the right, we just have like your commercial waste.
As in what? Commercial waste?
I would have to talk with the person who created this, and I'd have to get back to you.
Commercial waste might be like a manufacturing process, IBM waste possibly, and just part of manufacturing process typically is what commercial waste is. So again, I'll let you go in here. So again, right here with the bulky, this is mostly your spill, the red wine, protecting your couch from red wine spills. This is spills on your garments and also waterproofing, and then carpets again, spills. So that's what PFAS is being used for. I mean, a major component of it. So that's where, Steve, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. Where would the cement come up as far as level?
So
I should have done it before.
So for 100 gallons, that's what they typically do per mixing every few days. It's about 1.5, anywhere between 1 to 2 really, would be a more accurate way to say. So it would be kind of in the similar range that you'd see in sludge. But this is on a daily basis, and this is like every few days that they are mixing 100 gallons.
We're just about to get to questions or up to the process. Remember your thought. I forgot my last thought. I remember what I was going to say. So what Casella I should say NEWSVT, the operators are saying is like, well, if you're going to, I mean, you're now asking if we want to start watching where this concrete's going. We've got a lot, I mean, the country is full of this PFAS. Our houses are full of jackets and garments. You're saying we need to stop and measure and give locations for all of that material, PFAS containing material coming in. And I personally, when Steve first started running the numbers before we heard from Casella, I kind of changed. I'm not trying to sway any opinions here, but I was concerned about my own personal health being near this material. In the building, the treatment building, I'm like, is it proper air handling, all that? It's like, maybe I don't need to visit that building. But now that I have a much better understanding, I'm very relaxed about it. But yeah, PFAS is still a dangerous chemical. We're trying to stay focused, not only in our group, but we have other groups, our sites management, in waste management. We're trying to address it, and that's what's kind of happening up in this building. It's new technology. This surface area foam fractionation system is something that's trying to treat the leachate here, but I can see in the future, in the state of Vermont, we've got all these wastewater treatment plants that this type of equipment is probably in some form or another. Now, I don't know for sure, I'm just the solid waste guy, but this is a chemical that's being really focused on. And at the time when this came into the landfill, it would have been leading technology, but it's been a long, arduous permitting process for the applicants. But this is the rules that Steve and I have to operate under. And there's been a lot of communication between the solid waste program, wastewater program, air pollution. And then, of course, Act 250 has this broader picture, but at no other time have I been working for this department that there's been so much interaction focused on this material. So with that, this application is about, their request was to go from 100 gallons up to 7,500. Now, when I first saw this, I'm like, well, it doesn't take much technical review because all the infrastructure is there. However, it is a technical review because it impacts a couple of things. The facility management plan, which is, it's kind of like how they need to operate, and how they tell us we're gonna operate. Well, in that facility management plan, it said only 100 gallons. Well, that needed to go up to 7,500. This is the proposal. So we have a draft facility management plan, and that's a good way for you guys to make your comments as you look at our facility management plan and say, well, you didn't adjust this or that. The second thing was, I don't know,
Maintenance.
what's that?
Maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance.
Financials.
Yeah,
Maintenance.
thanks. The other thing is, well, if you're going from 100 gallons to 7,500, we require the landfill, if there was some type of immediate closure, that they're required to have money set aside that the state has access to, so that if Casella were to suddenly disappear, or there was some type of crisis, we would be able to step in and hire with a third-party vendors. Steve and I wouldn't operate the plant, but to close the facility down, and there's money set aside. So the financial, thank you, Dennis, on that. So they increased the financial document. So that's also in draft form. Once we get through this process, we will either issue, deny, or request additional information from them.
And if you want, I can just add to the maintenance part.
Yeah, sure.
So the building that has a drain, because as most of you probably well know, last year there was a spill of leachate when the SAF unit was outside before it was in its permanent building. The permanent building has a drainage that ends up going back into a 20,000 gallon underground storage tank that is connected back to the large 500,000 gallon leachate tanks. So if a spill were to occur, it would all be captured in that drain and go into one of the tanks. And by chance, if the 500,000 gallon tanks were both full, it would end up be stored on, I believe it was phase 3.
Yeah, either full, or if there's electricity failure or some type of pump failure.
But yeah, and then also the one thing I was asking that they put into the facility management plan is just to make sure that this drainage is clear. So by chance there's ever a spill, there is maintenance, so like that drain wouldn't clog up just from day-to-day operations, and they don't know. So it is in the facility management plan that they do maintenance and make sure the drains are clear.
Right, so not only that, those pipes there, but those are double walled pipes. Just to reiterate what happens, you got the building. If there was a spill inside the building from operations of it, or if there's a spill from loading the tanker truck, there's capture, the underground drainage. It's gravity fed through a double line pipe, so they look at the interstitial space to make sure there's no problems with that pipe. They can test that, they test it. And then it goes into that underground storage tank. Now, if that underground storage tank doesn't get to the large tank, then through gravity again, it goes down to the phase 3 primary liner. So we temporarily sit on the liner system, so we go back pretty much where it came from.
Yeah, and then this is just kind of the outline of the building, and this whole center line is just kind of the drainage.
Yeah, there's 2 sets of drains.
Yep.
So that's where we're at. This thing since September, we issued probably 15 days ago or so. I started getting into this. We decided to have the public meeting for transparency. I wasn't sure if we needed to have the meeting or not because of the technical review wasn't really that much change from what's already happening up there. But we're here, we've heard this in the past, we want to be very open. So we're holding this meeting. We're also available at any time. I know I talked to Peggy recently, and I can't think what her name is right now, but we're always available. Emails come in. So it's our position right now that this meets the rules and are eligible for this increase in gallonage. So part of our process, we decided to have a public meeting, started 15 days ago or so, 14 days ago, public meeting. We got another 14 days to go. You can comment 3 different ways. You can comment right here today. You can send us something through email and writing. You can do it on our ENB process. And then you can hand something in writing to me. So I guess
You want to
Yeah. So for those who may not know, so we have the electronic notice bulletin. It is our online version of where we post our draft permits and amendments, and that is where comments can be made. If you do not know how to get to the ENB, you can go to enb.vermont.gov, and then in this red circle up in the top right, there's a permit number, and then the permit ID is up top. It's OL 510-2024-36. I will post this PowerPoint, by the way, up on the ENB for anyone that would like to look at it. So when you search that OL 510-2024-36, you will see this. You'll see our amendment for Amendment 2A, surface active foam fractionated storage increase. And then if you click on that, it will go to this screen. Our comment period is open through March 27th, so I think we have 15 days left. As Jeff said, comments can be submitted tonight through email or on ENB. And there will be a response for all comments or questions that we receive, and we will end up writing a responsiveness summary and then posting that and then sending it out to everybody who put their email on tonight's sign-in sheet. And if you are online, I would appreciate if you put your email, name, and affiliation so we can give you all this info as well. Up on our DEC site, we have this nice new graphic that just kind of talks about each program that permits the landfill and kind of what they do. You can click on each one and it'll go into a little greater detail, but this is a very nice way for anyone to look up to see exactly what each program does in relation to the landfill. Going through that, as Jeff said, this is where they're adjusting their fractionating storage from 100 to 500 gallons, and then the ongoing management of leachate will continue to occur under its current wastewater pretreatment discharge permit. Yeah, I'm all set.
Right, so I don't know if we've expressed this, but it's all this leachate that's being produced right now is being treated. The interruptions, which means an interruption in treatment means it's holding stuff briefly in these tanks until they can get that 100 gallons treated. It's not allowed to keep anything over 100 gallons. So I just want to stress that there's a pilot coming up, and so this allowing them 7,500 will help that pilot study to maximize the greatest removal of PFAS feasible under the current system they have with technology. So we're about to take comments. I'll say, so if you're online, if you could raise a hand, we'll get you there. We also have Peggy and Henry have statements that they'd like to do. I think we've got a small enough group and feel very comfortable about letting people, take the time they need to make the comment. And then you were the first one. If you want to, anybody, you can go back later. I apologize. We were just coming back to the end of what we had to say, but we'll take comments. And Steve and I will try to answer as much as we can here that we feel comfortable with. But if there's some information that's more technical, we'll have to get back to you on that. And how we'll get back to it is a comment comes in 14 days, we'll review that comment, and we have what we call a responsiveness summary. So any comment that is submitted, we will respond in writing on how we determine that it met the rules. If comments are similar, very similar, then we'll probably lump some together. I don't think this will be like a landfill or back in 2018 where we had 300 comments, and we had to link some of them together. But we'll do the best as we can to separate out or pull out all the concerns and put them into a comment. So with that, I don't know, Peggy or Henry, if you want to go first, or some quick questions, or...
That if you could, just before you give your comment, if you can just state what your name is.
Yeah, help us.
I'm ready. You ready, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I look at the owl.
Oh, you don't have to look at the owl. You can actually stand back there if you want. Here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, good. The owl will focus on whoever is speaking.
Okay, thank you. Before I read my remarks that I wrote, I just want to say thank you for the information you provided, and it's really interesting to me that there's this interface, right? Like, I can tell that you understand the issue from your perspective, and now you're going to hear my perspective with basically the same understanding of the information, okay? But one thing that was new is that, the graph that had the various materials that go to the landfill and their PFAS content, right? And all I could think of is, well, two things. First, how many parts per trillion of PFAS are there in a gram of per 11.7 grams per gallon? But also knowing that all the PFAS in those materials is going to end up in the leachate. So it's all part of the same mix, right? Anyway, my name is Peggy Stevens. I live in Charleston, and because I'm concerned about the health and safety of our regional environment and public, I've been studying issues related to the landfill and landfill management and operations since 2019, particularly as relates to PFAS chemicals, which escape containment via leaching to soil and water and partitioning to air in landfill gas emissions. We're here tonight to talk about a permit for a 7,500-gallon holding tank to collect the SAF residual PFAS hyperconcentrated foaming. But really there's much more to it than that. What we're really discussing is yet another step towards permanent PFAS leachate treatments on-site in Coventry, even if it's being called a pilot project. First the building, then the SAF system, which has not been installed and operated as manufacturers and scientists agree it should. And now a 7,500-gallon holding tank for hyperconcentrated PFAS foaming. All with no master plan for this project is required by Act 250, and I know you're not Act 250. Inch by inch, NEWSVT edges closer to a possible permanent facility, while sort of pretending it was never the intention. The issue of the fate and transport of the SAF residual foaming and the hazardous PFAS it contains is existential. PFOA and PFOS have been classified as hazardous substances by the EPA since last April, but not yet as hazardous waste. Doesn't that imply that we should be proactive, go ahead and treat PFOA and PFOS, that foaming, as hazardous waste in anticipation of the eventual designation, meaning not disposing of it on a landfill? It's time for the ANR to abandon the excuse that the EPA has not yet ruled on PFAS as hazardous waste. Our ANR created a PFAS drinking water standard that is more strict than the EPA's. Vermont's ANR must not wait for the EPA to regulate PFAS as hazardous waste. Vermont has a right and a responsibility to fully protect the health and safety of our public and environment from forever PFAS contamination. By failing to regulate and manage PFAS as hazardous waste, the ANR is essentially saying that these hazardous PFAS chemicals are not the dangerous and life-threatening chemicals that they undeniably are. And what does the future hold in terms of the risk of the pilot becoming a permanent installation? When will out-of-state leachate, prohibited for the duration of the pilot, be imported for treatment, resulting in ever greater volume of more and more concentrated PFAS residuals, as well as the greater volume of leachate effluent, which remains chock full of short-chain PFAS and precursors that transform to hazardous PFOA and PFOS when discharged into the environment. So many more questions arise, and I'm not expecting to answer them. Practically speaking, it is a huge leap, as you recognize, from a 100-gallon tank to a 7,500-gallon tank. And so I just have to wonder, why wasn't this anticipated in a master plan? It just seems so obvious. We're told that the 7,500-gallon tank is to collect foamate and allow for the transfer of the foamate, as you said, to a tanker truck for possible treatment or disposal. What viable options for treatment or disposal are being considered? Is there a plan to comply with SAF manufacturer's recommendation to destroy PFAS residuals in a final treatment train step? That's what's supposed to be happening, and it's not. Where might this treatment or disposal occur? On-site or somewhere else? Will the current practice continue of mixing hyperconcentrated PFAS residuals with porous cement that both absorbs and releases PFAS, and then disposing these cement PFAS bombs, I'm calling them bombs, in the landfill, further concentrating PFAS in leachate? Will another building be needed for this purpose? If 1,000 gallons of leachate produces 1 gallon of foamate, as maybe you, Jeff, somebody in solid waste told me this, and if at least 60,000 gallons of leachate a day are put through the SAF, as we have been told, that would produce 60 gallons of foamate daily. It would take about 4 months to fill a 7,500-gallon tank at that rate. What's the need for a larger tank when the manufacturer's recommended final step, the PFAS destruction, could manage that amount of foamate daily? What safety mechanisms are in place to protect employees and the environment from PFAS exposure, whether for a 100 or 7,500-gallon tank? How can the public be assured that no accidental spill of hazardous hyperconcentrated PFAS foamate will occur? And you appear to have answered that, as happened in February 24. But I want to know, what the, when a leachate spill occurred, something had frozen, a valve had frozen up, so things happen, and I want to know what the backup systems are in place, in addition to that big old tank that's collecting that could possibly collect a spill. Is there documentation of sampling and analysis? Now you answer this question for me, for the PFAS foaming. If the success rate for separating PFOS and PFOA, which are both designated as hazardous substances with no known safe level of exposure, is about 98%, then the hyperconcentrated PFAS foaming must be hyperhazardous. It's a matter of time until the Coventry landfill qualifies as a Superfund site, and you can accuse me of exaggeration if it doesn't already. Even if the landfill will close tomorrow, like you're suggesting, there is a fund in place, which there needs to be. Even if we're closed tomorrow, there'll be leachate to collect and PFAS to destroy for decades. When will there be a requirement by the ANR to apply only the most effective technologies and the strictest standards for safety in the management and handling of these hazardous substances to protect the health and safety of our people, environment, fish, and wildlife? And I really hope you know that that is the whole reason I've devoted the last 6 years of my life to this, or a good part of it, is because I care about the health and safety, and you all are in a position to make sure that our health and safety is protected. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy. You're pretty accurate on your timing. And you said a lot, so obviously we can't respond to all that stuff, but just a couple of things that popped out to me. And one of them was that old system that failed, it was outside. I think the drive was to get that material going, clean up that PFAS, get it out of leachate. So what was different there wasn't in a controlled environment. It wasn't gravity fed if there was some type of failure. There was pipes running outside. There was a cold snap. And I didn't look into this as much as wastewater did, but apparently there was some type of key indicator, some monitoring that failed to to signify that there was a problem with the facility. Since then, I mean, the comfort that I personally have is that this thing is now inside a building and it's gravity fed. That's the one thing I just want to say. So that other one was, it was relying on a sump pump that, and it was temporary, and we were hoping to get that in the building ASAP. The other thing was 100, I just want to point out that it's, right now those tanks are there, nothing's changed, it's going from 100 to 7,500, and then confined. I think that's all I wanted to say. But thank you very much for your comment. Anybody online?
Yeah. Should I read it out loud?
No, ask them to,
We'll take it right now. We can say
if you can tell who.
Yeah, it's from MCI.
So MCI, you're online, if you could make your comment.
Yeah, it's in the chat. So basically MCI, which is the Men for Magog, what does the C stand for?
Conservation.
There you go. You guys. So anyway, they sent some questions. They want to know the quantity of the foam produced since the beginning of treatment, the final destination of the foam, and what does the company do with the foam since the demand increased storage from 100 to 7,500?
That's not
So it's hard to give you a specific number of how much of the foam fractionate was produced since the beginning of treatment. It starts out as a foam, but then it ends up consolidating back down to a liquid. They pretty much produce about 100 gallons of this fractionate about every 3 days, I want to say. Sometimes it could be a little less, sometimes it could be a little more, depending on the just the amount of leachate that they have at the time. Currently, the final destination of the fractionate, they currently will mix it within the building with concrete. And then once that concrete solidifies, it gets disposed of back into the landfill. Let's see. This company do the foams.
That's pretty much the answer.
Yeah, okay. And then I've answered the number 3.
Yeah, if anybody online has a question, it would be, I think we're set up with the technology where you'd be able to just unmic and ask your question. First, just raise your hand, and Dennis will pick that up, and then we can go from there. Other comments?
How many people are online? Sorry.
4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We can post it. 7. Don't count me.
Yeah. Looks like 7 are online right now.
Doesn't count back there.
Yes.
Oh.
Teresa.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, thanks. Teresa, I'm with them, and I'm really reading this and trying to understand the process. And it is my understanding that right now, we're not in the pilot yet.
Correct.
We're in a testing, see how this goes phase.
Yes.
Then we're going to be in a pilot. So this permit that you're getting is actually applying to a test phase. But I know it's the solid waste certification and the landfill is operating, and so it needs an amendment.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go then into the pilot, and then we're finally saying whatever happens after the pilot, which I don't know what that is. What I see is that there's a permanent building created. And now we're putting permanent tanks in the building. And now we're talking about the ability to even transport perhaps 7,500 gallons of residual hyperconcentrated foam, liquid, I guess. That doesn't sound like a test, and it really doesn't sound like a pilot. That sounds like a permanent facility, right? And it's hard for me to see where it wouldn't become a permanent facility. And if that's the plan all along, why aren't we talking about that? That's what I don't understand. And the other thing that I don't understand is, if we know that PFAS is as bad as it is, and Jeff, I'd still be concerned about going in that building. Because 1.2 grams, I mean, we're talking no safe level. EPA says no safe level. So 1.2 grams may sound like a little, but it's not a little, it's a lot. I don't know. But we can't probably say, all right, stop all the PFAS from going in the landfill. It's hazardous waste. I get that. People are gonna throw mattresses away. They're gonna go in the landfill. But you can stop 7,500 gallons of residual from going in the landfill because you can transport it to a hazardous waste facility. It's something you can do. It's something that would prevent that much from going in. We can't prevent it all from going in, but there's a setup. Is it your plan as the state to move toward that, to not have this foam go back in the landfill? Is there a movement to prevent that from going back into the landfill and making it even more concentrated? And, you know, we're in this cycle of adding more and more PFAS.
I think the bigger picture is that PFAS is being generated out.
It is, yeah, I get it.
And we're
Manufacturers.
all consuming it, and I don't want to be crass, but I sometimes think the same thing. Do I go in the building or do I sleep on my mattress? I mean, or do I walk across my carpet? It's like, it's everywhere.
And we have to, as consumers, try to be smart and not buy things with PFAS. So there are some things we can do and control, and there are some things we can't. And I guess all I'm saying is, yes, let's make the manufacturers take care of it. No more PFAS. Don't build things with PFAS. Don't make things with PFAS. Don't sell things with PFAS. Don't import things into Vermont with PFAS. But we can do some things, and we can do the parts that we can do. And I just wondered, is there any, I know the legislature is working on keeping PFAS out of certain things, but you guys could control the operation. You could set rules and say, you know what? We need to make sure that this foamate residual doesn't go back in the landfill. Let's find a solution that doesn't put it back in the landfill. Because that would be good.
I think that's part of the pilot study. I mean, I think this end disposal, this is what's right now, the technology. I mean, they did try bringing in this other unit, but that became some air pollution issues. So I think that's part of the legislation that's going through the legislature right now, is they'd like to have the ability to destruct this stuff, so it doesn't have to go in the landfill. The other point I just want to make is whether, and I would hope that they would be able to run a smoother program. Whether it's 100 gallons or 7,500, it's still producing the same amount. You know, it's not, the 7,500 is just, I don't think they'd ever go up to 7,500. It's just the maximum amount, it's one tank, it just gives them the ability to concentrate on the operations, and also the ability, if they do wish to ship some off, maybe just to test it, to send it off to somewhere and see if this is a viable option through the transportation, and going, if there's I don't know the technology right now because it's not part of our group, but ECO, which is
Electrochemical oxidation.
yeah, so maybe somebody will open a unit up somewhere and it gives them the ability to send it down there, see if that unit's working well to destroy their leachate, and then they have a better opportunity to bring that up and destroy this PFAS right on site.
So it sounds like it's up to them, and you're not really driving a solution, but they're driving the solution, and then you're approving, or I'm not trying to sound argumentative.
A lot of this isn't isn't a wastewater issue.
Okay.
You know, we're in the operational landfill, and I don't want to pass it on, but you know, I think you guys have worked a lot with Heather Collins, and that's what they're working on. And, you know, I mean, it's a group. It's our agencies working on it. It's the legislature's looking at it. Casella's looking at it. This is an emerging contaminant that it's kind of new, and everybody's trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having this. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Yeah.
My name's Jillian Stanforth. I live in Derby, and I used to live in Derby, Newport, and I've always lived on the lake. So prior to 2018, the leachate was going to Newport through the wastewater
A
facility.
portion of it, yeah.
Is that correct? Yes. Now it's going somewhere else. I'm not sure. Montpelier?
Some goes to Montpelier,
Okay.
a majority goes to Plattsburgh, and then some goes to Concord, New Hampshire, some to Madison, Maine.
So is the point of this, and I don't know what to call it, because it, as Teresa succinctly identified, this is a permanent facility that is doing work that has not yet been tested through the pilot, so the cart is before the horse. So excuse me if I get sequential in the vocabulary mixed, because the whole process is so confusing. But is the idea that at some point, if this pilot, which nobody's really explained what the goal is, would be to keep leachate out of water systems, because now there's a way to encapsulate it into a solid? What are we supposed to understand here? And I'm sorry, I'm not a scientist. You guys did a great job with this, but it doesn't answer the larger question of what the end game, what the end goal is. So I would appreciate that, and I have one more question afterwards. If you could explain how this is going to change the paradigm in which we're now stuck with. The other thing, it seems counterintuitive to me that if you hyperconcentrate a poison and put it back into where it came from, that the next edition of the excretion of that poison will not be even more concentrated. So we're kind of just doing devil's work here.
Yeah.
I can start off by saying, yeah, leachate's always going to be produced on landfills.
Correct. So what's the end goal here?
I don't think we're here to talk about that tonight, because I don't think we do know. I mean, there's a lot of unlined landfills in the state that are going into the groundwater. This facility is lined, so they're capturing all the leachate and they're treating it. And what this system here and this frac is trying to clean up what leachate they have before it goes to a wastewater treatment plant. So right now, the answer is the best technology for treating leachate is going to wastewater treatment plants. We've learned, so every wastewater treatment plant in the state of Vermont is producing PFAS on the back end. I mean, it's just everywhere. But what we've learned is that landfills were contributing to these wastewater treatment plants. There was a slightly elevated PFAS on the back end. So this whole system here is to clean up this leachate. Now, I don't know the numbers. I don't hold me against it, but the goal is here to clean this leachate up so that it's cleaner than actually the influent going into a wastewater treatment plant from our societies. So clean it up enough, so because it's not getting treated through the treatment plant. They need this. Those treatment plants will probably have some type of system like this in the future. Don't hold me to that, but that's the goal here. This is cleaning up the leachate to a point that is probably cleaner than what's going into the wastewater treatment plants now. I need to be careful. I'm not a wastewater person, but that's the goal. Or maybe I'll back up and just say they're trying to clean up this leachate to the greatest extent possible with the technology there is today.
Can I just add just one thing? Because I referenced in my remarks the fact that the SAF system is not being utilized the way the manufacturers recommend, which would be one step in a multi-step treatment train, ending in a PFAS destruction technology, which could be electrooxidation or supercritical water oxidation. It's not cheap, but it is the solution that can destroy, break the PFAS bombs, which is what's got to happen to render them harmless to the environment and every living organism in it. So So I just want to clarify that technology does exist, and at some point, as a nation, as a global entity, we are going to have to belly up
Yeah.
and deal with it.
And I think destruction is the ultimate end goal. Treating the leachate and removing it is a great first step. The SAF unit, when it was originally starting to get permitted, was cutting edge technology. Electrochemical oxidation or supercritical water oxidation didn't even exist yet. And so I think we're just trying to move through the process because the pilot hasn't even started yet. They've had to go through multiple permits and amendments with many other facilities, and before they start this pilot, they need to have all their permits in order. So part of it is, like the current regulation is slowing us down a little bit with trying to get to that ultimate destruction goal. But right now, like with the SAF unit, as I said, they're removing it, and I think that is a great first step. I think far further down the line, I believe if we end up going to destruction, it's just kind of when, but we have to get through the pilot study first.
Before the next question, let me just add to that. And this may also be that ECO or electric oxidation system may be sensitive in itself, that working on 100 gallons at a time, it might not be efficient. You know, I think that they're asking, I don't know. I'm just thinking, talking out loud, that having more than 100 gallons is pretty minimal amount when you think about what the landfill is and how big it is and what's operating there. Having this additional amount may be more efficient for operating some type of future destruction.
I think you had your hand up first.
I'm Joseph Gresser from the Chronicle. I have two questions, one which is probably easier than the other. The first is, am I right in thinking that the 7,500 gallon tank is actually there right now?
Yes.
And it only has 100 gallons in it,
Yes.
so it's
Yeah,
not a
they-
separate tank? Okay.
Correct, they do not go above 100 gallons.
The second one is about fractionization. Obviously, they aren't fractionating PFAS, because then you'd have a nice tank full of fluorine and other lovely things. What is the foam actually made of if it isn't?
Yeah, so it's like about 1.75, 1 to 2 grams per 100 gallons. That is a very small amount. That's probably only, I don't even know how to quantify it, like a milliliter, like very, very small amount. The rest of it is pretty much water and leachate. So it's mostly water and leachate in the foaming, because leachate naturally foams. And so once that foam is taken off, it'll settle back down and return back to a liquid.
So it isn't a fractionate?
It's called fractionate because, I mean, that's how we kind of utilize the term.
Or a condensate.
Yeah, it's like a condensate, concentrate.
But there's nothing that's happened to break even a small percentage of the bonds on the...
Correct, this just removes the
Okay.
PFAS.
Just
It doesn't
wanted to be
destroy
clear.
it. Yep.
So I have a second question when you're
I'll just
ready.
finish. So the foam itself is just a mechanical action where each PFAS molecule is made up, its tail doesn't like water, and the head doesn't like air. So they create this bubble, so that PFAS is riding right on that bubble edge, because one of it likes air, one of it likes water, and that's what this whole foam is about. It's to try to capture that, and then they suck the foam off, they put it in this tank. Now, you know, there's more concentration of PFAS in those foam bubbles. So they take the foam off, settles out, and becomes the concentrate.
And my recollection is that the leachate, when it was going to the Newport wastewater plant, the concentration was something like 5 grams for a 50,000 gallon tanker.
I would not know that off
Okay.
the top of my head.
I mean, because then it really is concentrated.
Yeah, but
Let's
remember,
go back here
there's
and
a
say-
trillion parts per trillion in a gram, so it's a lot.
Okay.
So how many tanks are in the building? 7,500 gallon,
Yep,
so it's 30,000.
One of them's for storage of the concentrate.
You got a 20,000 gallon
underground storage.
underground,
Yes.
10,000 gallons shy. Anything explosive or anything in that building that could be explosive?
That's my knowledge, but
We're not monitoring that.
Okay, well,
but there's not
question.
some mystery.
Okay, and on the 500,000 gallon tanks, are you gonna have it written in there so you're leaving at least, not 20, but 30,000 gallons less in the tank for an overflow situation?
Yeah, we already have that
You
in
don't
our
just keep those
regulations.
outdoor tanks full.
We have that in our regulations. They
Okay.
need to flow.
I'm just, you know,
And
let's
if they
just-
go over that, they need to report to us, and they also have to have a action.
But that 20,000
Yeah.
or 30,000 gallons need to help place the
Yeah,
bill.
now I don't wanna, worst case scenario, that's not happened, but if there was a catastrophic flood and a lot of leachate was produced, then it would still sit, it wouldn't go to the environment, it's just, would be staged in that tank. It'd be in the liner, but we require that that liner have 12 inches of leachate or less at all times. If it's over 12 inches, they need to report to us. If that tank gets over 2/3 full, they need to report to us.
So I guess the question, anything hazardous explosive in that building?
I don't think so, except
Okay.
the tanker truck's fuel.
No,
But I don't know.
If
That's
our
one thing that
process
Steve and I
is
don't
certain-
really regulate, is what's in that thing,
Yeah.
where we're just watching the activities. But, I mean, we've been in there, there's nothing in there.
And
It's
does
run
it,
by electricity, though, is that? How's it operate? It's
Yeah.
operated by electricity.
Yes.
Electricity can be explosive.
Okay.
well, I
if
just,
there's a fuel, but yes. Did you have a question, sir?
No.
Okay,
Joanne, did you?
okay.
I have another question.
Yeah, she's,
Yeah.
Um, So, my understanding, February 2024, when there was the spill, there was not staff there, is that correct? It was-
that's.
It was, I can't remember if it was the weekend or the night. So what's happening now, which is not part of the pilot, but doesn't seem to be actually permitted, this testing phase that's happening in this building, where they already put in the 4 tankers and 75, whatever. How is that staffed? Will that staffing change for the piloting? Is there 24/7 now, so that if there were to be a leak, it wouldn't leak for hours before someone shows up?
Yeah, I believe for the pilot, there is requirement for staff to be there.
But what is happening now? Because we're not in the pilot. What do you call this phase? What is this phase of operation called right now? It's not a test,
So
it's
they're
not
preparing,
piloting.
right, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So right now, they're coming up with the pilot study. This is a whole different situation than what was designed before. We've got contingencies, I mean, everybody else has contingencies, right? But that last one was outside, it relied on the sump pump, there's piping outside, it froze. This is all, as I mentioned earlier, it's under atmosphere, it's a heated environment, it's also the piping, they're there the longest it's probably empty without human interaction is 12 hours. But there is ongoing electronic monitoring. They carry phones, it sends a message to a cell phone if something that happened. That was the failure last time. If that happened again, some reason there's a failure, we're relying on gravity now, and it goes into that tank, it goes in. The pilot study will have a full-time staff person during the operation. During that pilot study, we will evaluate whether that is something that should be continue, or they may request, I don't know, but we're just monitoring. We're here to look at the change, and I understand the concerns, but that is a discussion that's going on.
So what do you call this phase we're in now?
I'd say they're in like their testing, trying and
So
optimization
this is
phase.
the pre-testing, pre-pilot
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
goal for the pilot is for them to like optimize their procedures so they can collect data pretty much at their optimized.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
But I still don't understand. I asked if there would be 24/7 monitoring, and what I've heard you say, if I'm correct, is there's 12 hours, so people work there for 12 hours, and then 12 hours there's nobody there?
I'd say it's like, there's not 24/7 right now. Right now it's just during their operating hours.
What would operating hours be?
I do not know their operating hours off the top of my head. But I can get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sue Dwelly, from Newport. Who exactly is currently, well, you say there's nobody there 24/7, but who exactly is monitoring and who is responsible for monitoring and then enforcement of things that aren't quite right or up to snuff or a problem or?
I say monitoring right now, if by staff when they're there.
Okay, Casella employees.
Yes. And then, if they're not there, there is electronic surveillance cameras and notifications that will be sent out. And I don't know who exactly gets it within the Casella operation, but I know there's several people.
There's multiple people.
And is there regular oversight outside of Casella checking on the
That's our
operation?
group, so it's solid waste program.
Which is how often,
Well, yeah, so we're in certification. We have a dedicated compliance section that goes up announced and unannounced.
how often?
I would say at least 4 times a year. Steve and I are there in the summer, almost bi-weekly. You know, and it's reactionary for us too. I mean, if there's issues, we're up there. So if there's no issues, it's typically in the summer, every 2 weeks, we go to, they have construction up there. We'll always go to the construction or attend the construction meetings. So that, all that stuff is we're attending. If there is suddenly to become a problem, such as PFAS, suddenly we're focusing on PFAS for the last 5 years. If there's an operational problem, we're up there more often. It's just, it becomes, you know.
And each permitting program has their own compliance section that will go up as well, not just the solid waste compliance section.
From what department?
It's all,
If it's not you.
it's all DEC, so there's air quality, there's wastewater, there's solid waste. I can't speak for stormwater or Act 250. I'm sure they also have compliance teams.
For example, 2 weeks, I think about 2 weeks ago, it was right before the landfill oversight. I think there was an unannounced visit up there where they go through the whole site. They're looking at paperwork, they're looking at operations, they're looking at the landfill itself, waste within the landfill, looking at the odor complaints, the other requirement, which is sampling or not sampling of waste loads coming in. All that stuff's checked, and then that's all, Barb Schwentner is head of our compliance section, that's all documented and reports filed for that.
How often do they do a burn off or whatever it is that makes the incredible smell?
There's there's some destruction of gas, and then there's also, they have the ongoing generation. The odors you're smelling are either coming from, if the odor event happens, is there's some type of construction pipe, the gas extraction, there might be something. A lot of times when there's odor, they determine what it was and they report back to us. What was your question?
Well, what was causing the odors?
Yeah, so the odors either come
I live in
from,
the old hospital, and
Yeah.
so I have a direct view, and also we're right in the air.
yeah. So the odor's either coming from the gas, which they can correct. Sometimes the odor's coming from the waste itself, and sometimes it's coming from sludges in the immediate
I mean,
area.
just the moving around of the waste, or?
Yeah, I mean, the acceptance and then, so most of the landfill's capped, some of that
Pretty
back.
powerful.
What's that?
I just said it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Henry, you ready?
Yeah, I remembered a question that I had. On the existing 100-gallon tank, how is it cleaned and by whom? Is it cleaned automatically or with the old-fashioned brush, the way we used to do with the bulk tanks and where every sugar maker has to do at the end of his sap run?
Actually, reality, what's happening right now, that 100 gallons is not even leaving the SAP unit. They're storing, they have within that unit, there's a 100-gallon tank capacity that probably will then pump, when it hits 100 gallons, it'll pump it into that 7,500-gallon tank. So that, I don't know the maintenance of that unit, that's not part of Stephen I's purview, but I can tell you that they shut it down, they flush it out occasionally, but that's not our area of expertise.
Do they wear hazardous suits, I hope?
What's that? Oh, I don't.
Hazmat suits? I mean, that's a dangerous function, especially if you have to scour the inside of a 7,500 gallon tank.
Well, remember what these numbers are showing too. And I was kind of amazed at actually when we're talking parts per trillion, it's amazing what we start focusing on numbers, but what it really is in reality to other materials too. I mean, I don't know what to say. PFAS is everywhere.
Yeah, but we are talking about the leachate and the foaming right now.
Yeah.
And we know that that is highly concentrated parts per trillion. And I've asked the question, touching on what Henry's asking, is that because I can't find it in the facilities management plan, what are the requirements to protect the employees who are mixing the concrete? Is this a closed system? Are they wearing ventilators or whatever you call those things? I mean, it's a really dangerous environment. And I agree. I worry. I don't think you should go in the building or anybody else without heavy-duty PPE.
I get it. We don't regulate that. We don't regulate worker safety. We're here tonight to talk about from 100 to 7,500 gallons.
I know,
And
and
just to
I'm not
correct-
picking on you. I'm just putting out these
No, I know.
questions because
Just
they
ask
need to
what
be
you know
out
about
there.
it, or don't know about it.
Let me just respond one more
Sorry.
thing. So
I'm sorry.
hyper concentrate, we're finding out that, it's not a hyper concentrate, it's a concentrated, we're calling it concentrate. It's a material that contains PFAS. And unfortunately, everything we deal with every day, living on my shirt or my pants body right now, we're living with PFAS everywhere. These guys are going to be dealing with PFAS in cement as opposed to PFAS in your mattress or on your couch or on your carpet. The numbers we're seeing are not that significantly, am I correct on that? It's not?
Yeah, like 100 gallons is comparable to a mattress or about 8 pounds of carpet, 7-8 pounds of carpeting.
So you're saying there's like 1 trillion parts per trillion of PFAS in my mattress? I mean, I'm not asking, I'm just saying the concentrate is the whole point. It isn't just, I know that my car, well, I don't have a carpet anymore, but it really was not that concentrated of PFAS. I'm just saying that. I don't need a response. I really mean what I say. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just think these questions need to be asked and recorded and considered. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. Did you have a question? Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. You just raised your hand for a moment earlier.
Anybody in mind?
Okay? Got it.
Yes, Teresa.
Steve, would you?
Henry was about to come up, but you can.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I have a quick question while Henry comes up. If you can answer the questions we have, who can?
We will, well, with your questions, we're recording them right now. We will try to reach out to other members and other programs of DEC, like other wastewater, air,
So-
depending on your question, and we'll reach out to them.
So if I submit written questions, you would be able to disseminate them to hopefully get some sort of, okay, thank you.
But I'd like to just reiterate that this is about changing from 100 to 7,500. And that's probably what is causing your questions. Henry? Last time you walked up this, you were head of the class.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. My name is Henry Coe. I've lived in the Northeast Kingdom close to 60 years. I have 3 sons who live in Orleans County and their families likewise. I speak in opposition to the application to increase by 75 times the capacity to store fomate residuals from an experimental SAF project to filter and PFAS at the Coventry landfill. Such PFOS and PFOA within the PFAS compounds, residuals are deemed hazardous by the EPA in 2024. You stated for Peggy and for others that the state of Vermont does not have considered this hazardous waste. Do you deny that they are hazardous? That these residuals are hazardous? The site, we don't talk about the site, but it's the old site that I used to use, that Charlie Nader used to use. We call it the wetland dump. It's the 129-acre toxic mountain is in the same very place. It's been expanded, but it's in the same place. Arguably, this could be said to be one of the worst sites for a landfill in the United States. It's upslope and within a mile of a drinking water source of another country. Canada, 175,000 Canadians take their water from it, their potable water. They are concerned. It's within 670 feet of the Black River, the largest tributary to the international lake. Environmental justice law was passed by the Vermont legislature in 2023. This is a euphemism for garbage imperialism. The practice of a larger, more affluent population exporting its garbage to less developed areas. This is an international phenomenon. We were one of the largest, probably the largest exporter of garbage and trash in the world in the 80s and 90s, into the early 2000s. On a state level, we are the region that accepts all of the, yet the 3 counties up here produce only 7% of the landfill space, utilize only 7% of the landfill space. Is this justice? The Basel Convention, which is a treaty which was signed in the early 2000s, plus the Border Boundary Waters Treaty of 1909, prohibits the export of hazardous material or polluting materials to another country without their consent. I'd like to say a word about consent. When Casella came here in the late 1990s, to my knowledge, they never asked the consent of the local people for what they're proposing to do. They never outlined a master plan. Democracy, as I was taught, is fundamentally based on consent of the governed. Canadians haven't given their consent. They were not even had the Casella, the owner, had not the courtesy to consult with Canadians about the potential pollution to their country. Every landfill liner leaks. The EPA engineer said this. We can show the source of that quote if you wish. It's just what has happened in this state because of a lack of a future plan by your agency of natural resources for solid waste in the future. It's come to this. And another thing, one of you at the table was quoted in a FOIA request that we made as, yes, we should have a treat leachate on site in Coventry because it will be a revenue enhancer for the Casella owner-operator. This to me is a, if not cowardly, this is a poor statement for a public servant. I'll say this, if you go against, we would like to know how many support this program, this project, and you've heard from others that have serious questions about it. If you nevertheless, as you did with the expansion permit in 2018, give it a green light, in spite of the majority, the huge majority who said no, at least you should attach these conditions. 3 conditions in my view. No, the moratorium on the treatment of landfill leachate at the Newport wastewater treatment plant, which is now temporary, should become permanent. That's 1. The landfill as it exists, 129 acres. We've been 30 years with this, and it's continuing to grow. No more expansion in the Coventry landfill. I have to cheat here. And so 1, the moratorium on treatment should become permanent. No landfill leachate shall be imported by Casella as a revenue enhancer. That's the second one. From outside the Memphremagog watershed to the site at the Coventry landfill during this pilot or in addition. And the existing 129-acre toxic mountain should not be permitted to appeal, to expand. Thank you.
Henry, we talked just the limit on the thing, but you stuck some stuff in there. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
I have a question, if no one else has one.
Teresa, I know you had your hand up earlier, so
I was just wondering if you could share the test results from the foamate. Were they done like by
Alpha Analytics?
the other one?
Yeah.
You were done.
Eurofins. Do you know if they were done by Eurofins?
I am not off the top of my head. I will go back to the document that they submitted to us and see what I can share.
Oh, that would be wonderful, because I think Peggy's been kind of asking for that for some time now. So if we could see that, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they would have submitted it within the past month. So.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Well, yes, sorry. So, I'm not sure how to say this.
Interrupt you. Do you just say your name again for me?
Jillian
Jillian.
Stanford.
Okay, thank you.
you know, we've been having, what Henry said, thank you, Henry, for saying that. We've been saying for a long time, the citizens of this county and the Canadians and our friends from other states who are fighting the same battle. And I've heard you use the word permanent. I've heard tonight that the 4 tanks were already put into the building from the get-go. We understood and we were told, if I'm not mistaken, that a permit was given for a building, but nothing else. So all this just keeps rolling and it keeps happening, and we're always playing catch up because we understood there was a permit for a 60 by 60 building, I believe. We were never told what was going in it. This is the first tonight that I've heard there's these huge 4 7,500 gallon tanks. So how is a person supposed to keep abreast of this? And I've heard you also say you can't answer questions, they're not in your lane. You're very good explaining what you've done here and you're part of this. How do we get to the larger picture? Because this is our community, we live here. You talk about we all use PFAS, we do. So I'm responsible for what I use, but I'm now also burdened with the other 93% that comes from every other person in Vermont who's using PFAS as well. But the Northeast Kingdom is facing the burden of this. So, I'm sorry, I'm a little long-winded. How do we get to the real information? How do we get to know what's happening before it happens? Because it keeps happening, nobody knows, and then it's divulged, or it comes out to us who live here, who work here, who have grandchildren here, children, whatever, animals, we have gardens, we swim in the lake, we do it all. But we do it all with no assurance and no protection and nobody at the state level who's willing to be transparent enough to explain the whole story. And it's wearing thin. And I know you're standing there and you'll tell me this is not what we're here to discuss. And I've heard this so many times. And I keep hoping when I come to a meeting that I can get to the bottom of this. And it just never happens. So what is your advice to us who live here on how to try and navigate all these systems?
So I'll attempt to, I'm not going to hit all your comments, but the building was permitted, passed with the infrastructure. This isn't anything new. And I can just say that Steve and I work full-time. Focus, a lot of our time is on this landfill, so it's a big facility. Some assurances that I would hope that you would have some trust in our organization. I think we're trying to do some cutting edge work. We're trying to clean up leachate. But I don't know, we're open. I spoke to Peggy this week, and I forget one other individual from Quebec had some questions. We're available. If you have questions, reach out to us. We've never denied. It may take a couple days, and if it does take a couple days, I usually reach out and say, hey, we're working on this. That's one of my things I really like to respond to people quickly. I don't want anything to go into us and go quiet, and you're wondering, well, did they see it? Are they working on it? So you'll get an immediate response from us, and then we will come up with an answer. Talking about it's a lot quicker than writing it, because it just takes some time. We've got other things we're focusing on. Yeah, would be next. And all I can say is we are available. We're trying to be as transparent as we are with this operation tonight. We're focusing on this increase, and yes, because of the small group, as I said earlier on, we're opening it up beyond just the narrow scope we got going tonight. We are looking at this to go from 100 to 7,500, but because it's a small group, we're open to listening to everything tonight. The one thing, we got this place at 8 o'clock. I don't know if the thing's going to shut down soon, but maybe if we can wrap up on specific to the gallonage, and then we can have some more discussion in case the thing goes down, but we're here. Here.
Well, unfortunately. I think the truth of the matter is that this is morphed into something, you know, the cart is ahead of the horse, and instead of just, let's just say what the way it really is, this is a permanent thing. There's nothing pilot, there's nothing temporary about any of this. Okay, the truth is, and this is what this lady over here is asking, the real truth is, this is permanent.
Yeah.
Okay, and you just start dealing with it like a permanent thing. Now, you're talking about 7,500 gallons, which leads me to believe, or the public to believe, now it's all of a sudden becoming a commercial use, or a commercial, you know, hauling off in bulk, okay? So, I mean, this is just the, you know, the stigmatism here that I'm feeling about this whole thing, okay? This is morphed into something bigger than all of us, okay? We've got to get the state to grips on this whole waste thing, all of it. So what you're doing right now, I'd say you want to step up the pace and get something in here that's bigger, that's going to take care of a long-term solution. This is just wasted time, wasted effort.
I hear you. And your comments come through us. Do go out.
It's just my feeling about it, to get back to what the truth, this is what she's looking for, is the truth. The truth is, this is a permanent thing. Stop dancing around that.
I will say, I don't know about what you mean by permanent.
I'm
but-
sorry, I appreciate your comment.
Yeah, I won't know what you're saying really about permanent and what's not permanent, but the goal, we have not received any information saying that they're gonna ship the stuff off-site. I don't know if that would be a better option for you or not. The goal is just to bring this thing up so they have more flexibility if they do wish to trade off-site, or it also smooths out their operation, gets rid of those sine waves, and hopefully it gets straighter.
Flexibility, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Effie Brown. I live in Derby, and I just wonder, Henry mentioned some conditions that might be placed in some of these permits, and I've been present for all of the public hearings that have been heard for all of the permits, for the processes and the whole thing, and you know, a simple request like never any more leachate in the Newport wastewater treatment facility would be, I mean, that's pretty damn simple. Why can't it be written, one of the state's conditions written into a permit somewhere? Or, you know, Henry's ideas, I think, were very good. And your explanation of this particular permit is very good. I understand it. It makes sense in my brain. What doesn't make sense is the calculations of the concentration of the PFAS that you're talking, because grams, and I know it's because of the material, it's not liquid that you're talking, grams don't, I'm used to the other terms, the parts per trillion in water. That makes sense, but that's neither here nor there. That's just a comment, no question there. But the simple ask of a simple request, I think, is very appropriate, and I wouldn't want to be you.
I will, one thing I will say, I think in their Act 250 permit, that they do say that leachate is not to go to the Newport wastewater treatment facility. I will look into that, and I think it would require an amendment that would have to go out to public comment.
I think Peggy brought that
I
up.
think I could recite it.
Yes.
Okay, because the big old loophole in the Act 250 statement about leachate into Newport was until a treatment technology can be proven or seek to prove that leachate can be rendered harmless.
Okay.
Words to that effect. Could I just take this second now? I think what Jillian was really asking about, what Bob was asking about, is really having to do with the idea of a master plan. I really appreciate, you do get back to me, like within 24 hours, Jeff. I really appreciate that everyone from air quality, if I have an air quality, everybody gets back to me. The issue is all of these silos that everyone has a separate piece of. And if we had a master plan, then everyone would come to the table, including, I think, Secretary Moore is really who we need to be talking to, you know, because ultimately she's the one who has the authority. You work for her, and I have a very amicable relationship with Julie Moore. It's not adversarial. I just wish we could all come together, all of the various silos, the secretary and the public, and have a real meeting about this very complicated issue. That it makes it really hard not to wonder what's going on behind the scenes, like behind the curtain, because we feel like there is a master plan that we're not allowed to know about.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I think before this SAF system came in, it was, our program seemed like the only outlet you guys had in the past. And so whenever we had a meeting, it was more than just solid waste. I've seen that. I think water quality's been up here. You've seen Pete Laflamme up here. There was,
Our audio is on.
I think,
It looked like, I think it was our 2 hour time.
I think there was another request by the mayor of Newport to come up. It was short notice. There wasn't an agenda. I think it was back to our upper levels. Obviously, Steve and I can't answer your questions.
No,
But I think, you know, there's been some movement, and I think the last request I do remember is somebody from I think it was the mayor, had asked to have us come up. And I think it was short notice and there was an agenda. I'm not trying to encourage or discourage, but maybe something like that needs to happen again. But what you're sending to us has nothing to do with a permit, but what you are doing is you're sending a message. What goes on today, we report back, and you know, I hear you, what you're saying. And this isn't new.
no,
I recognize that.
yeah, thank you.
Do we have all?
Josh, you have-
We just got a 2 hour timeout, so people online lost the audio, so we're trying to reconnect.
Pam.
Just trying to get people back.
Hamlet's, Newport. We can go around and around in circles. And it's true, you guys come up here, you respond to us. We had the meeting in Newport, we can certainly have another one. We're all happy to have another one, except nothing changes. Because what happens is Casella, the landfill, incrementally builds and builds. It's a juggernaut. We're discussing now whether to permit something that's already there. That's really a joke, because it's sitting there. Obviously, it's going to be permitted, and that's been our experience. But the bottom line is, we don't want the landfill. We're stuck with it here. We're going to be stuck with it forever. But it's not environmental justice that we remain stuck with it. We should not be the only site forever. We should not ever be having to worry about, is it going to expand more? What wetlands is it going to take over next time? We shouldn't have to be concerned that the leachate will go back through the Newport wastewater system. It won't, because there's a bypass for that. It can go straight into the Black River, and we know that that's an option. Joe Gray even mentioned that at one of the previous meetings. So Newport's not safe. Lake Memphremagog is certainly not safe. Canada isn't safe. And we would like it gone. Bottom line.
It's more of a comment. I just want to make
Say your name.
Beth Barnes,
Yeah, I got it.
Brownington, Vermont. I was really shocked to hear Henry say that he had a FOIA that named somebody in this room as having said that they were interested in Casella's bottom line or the health of Casella's bottom line. I forget the exact words. Well, could you, or what I want is for you all to be concerned with the health of the people that live up here. And forget about Casella's. It's not anybody in this room's job to think about Casella's bottom line. And I feared that all along, that it's about how much money Casella can make off our backs.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that if I could.
Oh, hold on, so,
Go ahead, Jeff.
that's Josh Kelly, he's head of the solid waste program on back. I was a little bit shocked on what Henry had said. I'm interested, I think maybe you're gonna address it.
Yeah, I'm Josh Kelly, Solid Waste Program Manager. Generally, I stay quiet. I think these are good meetings, they're productive, you guys are asking a lot of good questions. But when statements are made that are not factual, I feel like it's, especially when it's about staff, I feel it's my job and my role to step in and just state the facts. So that is not the facts as I heard them in the materials that Mr. Coe received. I think it's perfectly his right to make a statement. But I refute that that is accurate, that there's some sort of, this is helpful to Casella. The treatment of leachate from PFAS is an ongoing battle across the country and the world. And so everybody's going to be trying to figure that out. This organization is trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out how to regulate it. And I think that's what's accurate here.
Could I respond?
Go ahead.
During the discussion, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago, we requested a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act, to ask the staff what went on within the Agency of Natural Resources with respect to they were talking about pre-treatment of leachate on site. And I'll say it right out. It was Mr. Feckhart who stated this could be a revenue enhancer for Casella were we to treat it on site. That's the statement and that's the fact. And we can prove it in the FOIA request response.
Okay. Thanks for your comment. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry to have embarrassed you, Mr. Feckhart.
I'm not embarrassed. First of all, I was talking to Joe Gay, and I was asking him about treating leachate, and I don't think I've ever used the word enhanced in my life, so I don't know if you got those right. But I did say, are you thinking about bringing in leachate and treating it? I'm just asking. That's part of my job. I'd like to know what Casella is trying to do.
We continue we work with Casella every day. We do are always asking, what's your future development? And it could be a hard no. I mean, a lot of times they bounce ideas off us. It's like, no, you can't do that. It doesn't meet our rules. As far as treatment and all that, it's really not solid waste programs under our purview that's all part of their indirect discharge. Whether comments were made or weren't made, it's probably not in our purview. But working with Joe Gay, trying to figure out what they're trying to do. If they are, it's like, boy, you gotta go talk to these people. And a lot of times we're the direct contact, and then they move to other areas. In fact, I'll just say that within our agency, we're because of this landfill, we are working closer now with all the other programs than we ever have before. We have meetings regularly, just to talk about what we're doing with the landfill, whose responsibility. We inform Casella about these, just to make sure that, as you guys say, it's different silos, that we're not having something fall in between the silos of what they're doing for operations or not.
Any master plan?
Well, we're going to be having a stakeholder meeting coming up this summer to talk about the future of disposal capacity, which is really what we're into now. You guys aren't asking questions about the 7,500 gallon tank.
No.
You're talking about what's the future. So we've committed as a state and as a program to having that dialogue, and you will all be invited to that discussion. So we intend to do it after the legislative session because people are busy, they're trying to attend public meetings and public comment testimony right now. But that's the goal for that conversation.
Will you be bringing together all your silos to that meeting?
Well, the solid waste program will kick it off. I will obviously put it out to my other colleagues to come. They may or may not join, but I will.
So what can we do to encourage Secretary Moore to encourage you all to come together in one group and meet with us? I mean, that would have solved so many problems, and it would have streamlined the whole process if you had done that in the beginning and required a master plan from NEWSVT.
We can bring that feedback up to Jamie, yeah. But for now, for tonight, is there any other questions about this permit condition?
7 minutes remaining.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
February to March 27th.
Okay, but I read the actual draft permit, and
Okay,
it says March 26th in there.
okay, that could have just been a small error.
Yeah.
That's my error, and what it is, I put it down, count out, but we gotta put it into this, like everything's
Okay, so
automated.
that's controllable.
When I loaded it, yeah, and sorry, I didn't go back and straighten it out.
Just want to be sure.
Yeah.
Yes, no, thank you for that.
Any additional comments?
3 minutes left.
All right, so again, I can
Just
say,
one,
Yes.
Donna Constantino, Newport. Just seems like what people were saying, it is like a field of dreams type of thing, only not a good thing. If you build it, they will come. And I just find some of the language to be very Orwellian because I think it is like a sleight of hand, like, oh, it's a test pilot thing, but yeah, you know, it just doesn't ring true. And I think a master plan would put all those pieces in so that we wouldn't feel like we're being hoodwinked. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, so just review the ways we see, let me just do this and maybe. You can give it in writing to us, we've heard it here. We appreciate it in writing, particularly if it's regarding the increase in gallons, or you can comment through the ENB.
Do you have like a flow chart of all your departments and how they all interact?
It's funny, that came up today in a meeting. And I don't think it's user friendly. I think it's each department, or each division.
Look up a word in the dictionary, you're back to the same word.
Yeah.
So, is there something that you guys, as a state,
I hate to refer back to Josh, but he may know more than I do, but what?
I think that landfill diagram was created for that purpose specifically. There's 3 major parts of the department that regulate the landfill, and that's why we created it. So you could go to each of those depending on what your question was. Air quality related, air quality and climate division. Water quality related with the wastewater pretreatment permit, wastewater management program. Solid waste related, solid waste management program. This is it. Act 250 is an asterisk down at the bottom because they do have regulatory oversight. You guys are familiar with those meetings. This is why we created this map specifically as an agency, to make it a one-stop shop.
And Bob, that's why when I first started, it's like, we got the agency, 3 departments. And this is all of this regulation is under DEC. There may be some wildlife lands next to it that they work with.
well, there's some about fish and game.
And forest parks, yes, they're working with them, but it's not really under the regulatory authority that we have as far as operations and activities within the landfill. But DEC, as it says, broken up into air, wastewater, stormwater, and Act 250, solid waste. It's confusing.
That's why, maybe a flow chart and maybe some links and whatever else you can.
Okay, I appreciate that.
That's all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, can we end the comments? again, we're available, whether it has something to do with this, or reach out to our program. Peggy?
Thank you very much.
I don't know if you get your other response from Pete yet, but